If you're still letting keyword volumes drive your B2B SEO strategy in 2026, well, I'm sorry to say, but you're getting left behind. You see, tactics such as these just aren't enough to drive pipeline anymore. In this video, I'll walk you through the 9 best B2B SEO strategies that have enabled our clients, such as Suzanne HR, to rank in some of the most competitive industries on the planet. Some of these industries, our competitors are spending near enough 6 figures a month to compete in, and I'll show you how we're still toppling them. Now, a word of warning, I tend to ignore fluffy tactics such as site speed, and I don't commonly talk too much about keyword volumes. Instead, I focus exclusively on B2B SEO strategies that are proven to drive actual pipeline for your business. If you don't know me, my name is Ben Alfrey. I'm co-founder of Session Media, and we've spent upwards of 8 years working in the B2B SEO space, generating our clients in the tens of millions of pounds of pipeline in that time. From the product portfolio strategy all the way through to the authority flow framework, I'm going to take you through the 9 best B2B SEO strategies that have allowed our clients to rank highly in Google and contribute to their pipeline goals. And if you stick around till the end, I'll show you a lesser known trick that we use to identify hidden AI traffic in Google Search Console. And I'll also provide you a free 30-day implementation checklist just so that you can get started straight after this video. If you sign up to the first link in the description, you'll be sent a Notion board that looks like this. Now, if you click the first link in that Notion board, I've got a bit of a treat for you guys today. So I haven't just given you the notes and the summary of everything that I'm going to take you through. So these 9 best B2B SEO strategies that I guarantee you start implementing today, but I've actually built this into a microsite. So something a little bit more visual that I can run through with you today. So if you click on the link in the Notion board and open it in your browser, you'll be able to have the exact microsite that I'm about to take you through right now. So without further ado, let's dive into the video. So to kick it off, the product portfolio strategy. Now, I'm old enough and hopefully wise enough to remember when you just created one page to target one keyword or one sort of keyword set of related keywords in Google. Now, unfortunately, it's not 2023 anymore. And let me take you through an example of the product portfolio strategy in play in Google right now. So if I Google HR software for small businesses, what does the SERP look like? Well, I've got my Google ads at the top. I've got some schema markup here. I've then got a listicle. I've got a solution page. I've got an AI overview. I've got a Reddit thread. I've got a homepage. I've got a YouTube. I've got a set of YouTube results. I've got another solution page. I've got a blog, looks like a buyer's guide of some kind. I've got another solution page here. I've got more Reddit forums. I've got another homepage. And then, of course, I've got my Google ads right at the foot of the page. So what does this say to me? Well, this says to me that whenever someone Googles HR software for small businesses, Google wants to provide that user with multiple different content formats, giving them more choice. And this has come about because their data has indicated that different types of users are searching for different types of things with this keyword. We can't qualify this person with this keyword as to whether at the top of the funnel just doing some information seeking, whether at the bottom of the funnel looking for an actual solution. So what they do is they provide us what they do is they give us a bit of a mix in the SERP. They give us a bit of a hybrid of informational, solution orientated in many different content formats, Reddit, YouTube, and traditional sort of website listings. So the product portfolio strategy is very much creating different content types to match whatever is on the SERP for that target keyword. So if I was going after the HR software for small businesses keyword, I'd make sure that I've got an optimized solution page for that. I'd make sure that I'm creating YouTube videos that can rank for that keyword. I would create listicles around that keyword. So the 10 best, top 11, essentially assessing different competitors in the market. And of course I'll also consider creating something a bit more long form. So that could be like a buyer's guide or a thought leadership or state of the industry or trends. And the best thing about this is that, one, it protects us or at least mitigates as much as we can from future Google updates. So if Google roll out a core update and actually they switch to more listicle type domains and listings, well, we've got a content format for that. If they switch it the other way and go more sort of solution focused, well, we've got an optimized solution page for that. If they end up rolling out a number of different YouTube listings, got YouTube videos that can rank for that as well. Then, of course, when we look off page, well, they had a number of different forums from Reddit that were ranking. So I would work with Reddit providers. I would work with aged accounts that can add comments and mention our brand on those forums as well. And by rolling out the product portfolio strategy, it ensures we've got multiple different content formats speaking to different prospects at different stages of the buying cycle. So there's also additional benefit that if a user comes through and visits your site and they naturally navigate to these different pages, we can answer different questions and provide different solutions for that user. So no longer is creating just one page to target one set of keywords enough. We need to make sure we're creating multiple different content formats and essentially use the Google SERP results, so the listings on Google, as a steer as to what those formats should be. Number two, this is the competitor capture method. Now, trust me, I have so many different conversations with clients that are very unsure about speaking about competitors on their site. And trust me, I get it. You don't actively want to show a prospect a competitor of yours and potentially push them into that competitor's domain, because it could potentially be lost revenue. Well, I'll say to you guys what I say to them is that prospects are having these conversations with you or without you. So behind the scenes, the decision-making team will be considering a number of suppliers for a single solution. So these conversations are happening anyway. And I can almost guarantee that they are aware of the competitors that you're trying to shield yourself from. So first and foremost, I think having the understanding that being upfront with who your competitors are and objectively where your strengths lie and where their strengths lie not only helps to build trust, but it would also likely lead to better conversations with your sales team, because the prospect that has come through will have essentially self-qualified that you are the best solution for them. So what does this look like in reality? Well, this is creating content on your site that ranks your business against one of your competitors. What I'm going to do is just show an example of this using SpendFlow. So these guys actively provide competitor alternatives on their site. Now, you'll notice I have to come to the footer to pick these out. They don't make it super obvious in the header. So to me, this is a bit of a battle between the marketing team and potentially C-suite as to not making it super obvious that this content exists, but this content does exist. So, for example, SpendFlow is a competitor of Tropic. They've provided some information. So, for example, SpendFlow is a competitor of Tropic. They operate in the same procurement SaaS space. What SpendFlow do here is they still want to capture information right at the top. I personally wouldn't do this. I think ungating this information will keep the user on the site. I'm far more likely to bounce and start Googling around Tropic to find out where their strengths are. So I wouldn't necessarily do this. But if you scroll down, they do provide some, some comparison quotes. They provide some comparison data. What Tropic aren't great at, what SpendFlow are great at. And then they go through and do a bit of a feature hit list as well. So once you get to the bottom of this, you probably have a bit more of an understanding as to the feature set that Tropic provide versus SpendFlow. Now, where I would make this a little bit better is I would be a lot more objective with this stuff. So this means that I would be totally upfront as to where Tropic are best at. Okay, Tropic are much better at shadow IT than us. And actually our strengths lie in XYZ for XYZ category, right? Because you can't be the best at everything for everyone. And if you try and communicate that, you're quite simply just going to damage the trust of the prospects that's visited you. Now, how do you go about prioritizing those alternatives? So typically your business, your sales team will be actively in competition with the same 2, maybe 3 competitors for the same prospect. So definitely start with the business priorities first. The secondary sort of priorities is you can have a look at this from a keyword volume perspective. Now, you know how I feel about keyword volumes, and this is why it's secondary to the business priorities. But if you put something in, if I put in SpendFlow alternatives, we might get something. Okay, there's nothing there. If I scroll back down to the bottom of this, let's have a look at vendor. And it could be a case of just doing a bit of keyword research to understand, what users are searching for in Google, to then prioritize the list of competitors. So for example, vendor alternatives, 10 searches in the UK, 150 globally, 90 of which are in the US. So in the US, there's significantly more people searching for vendor alternatives than there are for, say, spend flow alternatives, for example. So you might want to start with vendor alternatives. Nonetheless, just make sure that this content exists on the site. And again, what I would do differently is have this actively in the navigation, point users towards it and say, look, have a look at the comparison and make your own decision on this. But not having this content means that you cannot control the conversation, and we don't want that. Number 3, this is the decision maker relevance framework. Now, quite often we get too hung up on keyword volumes. We get too obsessed over metrics that don't often provide a great deal of context. And in the context of B2B, we need to think of prospects as a decision-making unit and as a team. So quite often you will have the users of your solution or SaaS, whatever it may be, and then you might have the decision makers. So this could be the CFO, for example. The decision maker relevance framework is all about providing content that speaks directly to those parties. So this is having dedicated pages that sit on the site that are there that speak to your key decision maker and your key user. Let me show you a really good example of how this is done. If I come over to productive.io, this is a project management system. Now, if I come over into industries, they have dedicated landing pages based on my industry. So if I click on agency, what do we notice right at the top here? So we've got a 3-stack benefit that speaks specifically to common agency bottlenecks and the reason that they would go for a project management system. So running projects, budgets, resources all in one place, getting real-time insights into capacity planning and financial forecasting, reducing manual work. Even down at the bottom left here, I've got a report about how these agencies actually increase revenue from AI. So something that's quite relevant to me. As I scroll down, I've got a bunch of logos here that are in my industry. We've then got a problem solution. So it literally says to me a common pain point, why agency operations break down. And then they give me those pain points. They then sort of address how their system sort of resolves those pain points. And the whole page is focused specifically on me as someone that works in agency. And the beauty of this is that it can be a dedicated content piece all about me, my problems, the solutions it provides, the social proof that it gives with the logos, the screenshots of the solution in action, all things as an agency owner that I would want to see. Another good example of where this is done is on Suzanne HR. They've got an HR software for charities landing page. Again, I've got my logos at the top of nonprofits. I've got a little bit of information that speaks specifically about me if I were to be a charity, for example, with a 4-stack benefit. I've got some testimonials here from a nonprofit. And again, a little bit more information as to the benefits of using their system, why their system is absolutely fantastic for charities and for non-profits. So it's absolutely integral that you have landing pages that speak directly to your ideal customer profile, even if the volumes for, say, HR software for charities, HR software for non-profits are 0 or minimal in this case. Identify where your best revenue comes from in respect of lifetime value, deal size, and make sure you have dedicated pages that speak to those industries, the users, and the people that will make up that decision-making team as well. Number 4, a relatively new one, but a very important one, and one that's going to have growing impact as the years go on, is the AI Citation Framework. So it's no longer a secret that AI prefers data structured in a particular way. And the reason it likes this is because it makes information retrieval much cheaper and much quicker for the models, which means that it can provide the output to the user, i.e. the answer to the prompt that they've put into a ChatGPT, far quicker at a lower cost. So what does this look like in practice? So I've given 2 sort of points here. The first one is summarizing the key answers, the key takeaways as early as you can. So save the user having to scroll to the bottom or read all the content to get to the crux of the data point or information that they're looking for. And the second point is rolling out these listicle type formats. So the top 10, best 10, 7 best alternatives type formats. Recent data has shown that 43% of all cited content in Chat GPT is actually this listicle style format. And this is something that I spoke about in a recent AI SEO presentation that I gave for one of our clients. And I actually spoke specifically about more of the details to how to structure content that AI loves. So I'll give you a very quick high-level summary of this. So as mentioned, add a quick overview at the start. Use bullet points, numbers, and tables when explaining a concept. So, don't use the big multi-sentence paragraphs that you and I were probably taught to use at school. Make sure it's sort of one-liner, easy to consume and understand. Use H3s to go deeper on a subject, but don't go too broad. So if you're talking about the specifics of a feature set for your HR software, for example, then go specific on the feature set. Don't go too broad around it into veering off into other categories, for example. Using information gaps, so bring new information to the SERP. That could come from real experiences, from people that have actual experience in the field, in the category. If they've been working in the category for 10 years, bring in some of those real experiences into the content. And next to this, bring in expert opinions and references. So cite external sources, but make sure that you do link out and attribute any sort of external references to them. Use the likes of Perplexity to understand and add other sources to strengthen the article that you're talking about, and mine through forums such as Reddit and actually review sort of first-hand experiences from other people in your category. And where I think this has been done really well for the purposes of this presentation, my prompt was best managed IT service solutions. So I was looking for the best managed IT service solutions, obviously. My output gave me 6 different points here, all referenced from one article, which was pretty amazing considering we know that AI doesn't crawl all of an article. It slices different sections up and then serves them back to the query. And then underneath the sort of what to look for in a great MSP section was the first company that had been recommended, but it wasn't their homepage or service page that had been linked to. It was actually their Wikipedia as well. So bear that in mind. Now, if I have a look at that first Corsica Tech article, what have they done really well here? So my prompt was best managed IT service companies or solutions. The article is titled best managed IT service providers, and it's a listicle type format. They've added a linkable author bio, which I'll come on to. They've provided a published date and an updated date down at the bottom here. AI loves freshness, so ensuring that you show a modification date if your updated date was probably greater than a year, I would say is actually quite important now. They've outlined the key takeaways, and they've also structured their content using things like bullet points. So this is an AI's dream, and this is something that is very easy to replicate across your own sites. So really taking into account when you're thinking about your product portfolio strategy, consider AI SEO and how AI cites content when creating your listicles. And this leads me really nicely onto number 5, which is the trust header framework. So if I go back to the presentation here, I've mentioned that there's an author bio, it's linkable. I've mentioned that they've got a published date as well as an updated date. These are 2 absolutely fundamental things that you need to have in the header of any content that isn't solution focused. And the third thing that I've put in the trust header framework is a category link. So a link back to the parent topic. And to share a couple of examples where I think this is done pretty well, could be better, I'm going to firstly go into productive. If I come into resources, go onto their blog, if I go into agency management, and then what is capacity management, so the first link here. So the first thing you'll notice is it has a link back to the parent topic, so agency management in this case, which is awesome. It's also got a linkable author down here. So where we can make this super optimal is that this author bio says a little bit more about this person. It also links off to other works that they've done. Now, what I noticed on the actual blog landing page is that it does have a link to her other socials. So it's got a link to her LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, which is awesome. So that's exactly what we want. It adds validation to that author, which is a great EEAT signal. We've also got a last updated up at the top here. It doesn't have a published and updated, which is fine in this case because it just says when it was last updated. That's the most important thing. And then admittedly a little bit below the fold, but that's okay. We do have the key takeaways as well. So straight away, before I've even started reading this article above the fold, before more or less I even need to scroll, I have an idea as to what the article is about. I know who wrote it. I can validate who that person is, so I can check her experiences maybe in this space. I've also got a couple of bullet points telling me exactly what I'm going to get out of this article. This is a huge tick in the box for user engagement, and we know categorically that Google does measure engagement signals from users that visit articles in Google Chrome. So having users spend time on the pages and then navigate throughout the site is absolutely critical to ranking. So this is a fantastic version. Another version that also does it pretty well, probably not quite as well, I would say, is see on here. So right at the top, they've got a reference to the category but haven't linked to it. They've got a published date, and the published date is relatively new. So as long as that published date is always within a couple of months or so, as long as the content is changed and modified, then that's absolutely okay. They've also got a 5 minutes read time here, which I think, again, is a good sort of tick box for user experience. And they've got an author that's linked here as well. And this author bio is a little bit more fleshed out, right? So they've got a little bit more about this person, their qualifications, and then they've got a link to their LinkedIn as well. So I'd say that this author bio is probably a little bit better than productive, but they could link back to the parent company, which would enable the passing of authority throughout the site. Okay, so we've reached number 6, the content detox strategy. If you're still with me by this point, I really appreciate it. If you're liking the video so far, then please do hit subscribe. That says to me that this is the type of content that you want me to create more of. So thank you for that. Now, the content detox strategy. This is actually the action of removing or no indexing content in a bid to power up the more important pages on your site. So quite often I will audit a client's site. It's had many different content writers, CMOs, all with their own strategy, all with their own vision for the site. And what's left, not always, but quite often, is a real mixed bag of different content types, content strategy, multiple different pieces of content talking about the same thing in a different way, a mix of tone. And one thing that a lot of CMOs and people in senior marketing positions at B2B companies don't understand is that every single time we create a piece of content on the site, it pulls authority away from those other pages. It dilutes it for everyone, right? So therefore, by creating hundreds and thousands of different pages, we could in turn be diluting the authority away from the pages we actually want to rank that actually drive pipeline for us, and we're not getting much in exchange for that. So let me show you a real example of where this was the case, probably one of the worst cases that I saw for a client from some years back, several years ago. Now, they are dental accountants, and they had all sorts of content talking about things like fox hunting, for example. Now, of course, this was written a long time ago. Really, there was no content reason to have this live. And when I spoke to the owner at the time, it was very much like a quantity was the KPI conversation. So what I suggested was that we outright just for 404 or 410 this content. I had a look at the Search Console. It had 0 clicks, barely any impressions, didn't have any links, obviously hadn't led to any conversions for the business. So this was the perfect article to remove from the site. And when I spoke to the owner, they didn't want to remove anything because they'd invested resource in creating this. So what we decided instead was we would no index it. So the site still exists, as you can see it right now, but we took it out of Google's index. And instead it would just lie over there and not do a great deal. We actually ended up doing this to about 30 to 40% of the site, and they had a nice spike in their traffic. And the reason for this was that the link building that we were doing for this business, essentially more of that authority could go to the pages that do matter to the site, the pages that contribute to pipeline in some way. So when thinking about content pruning and the overall content detox strategy, there's a few things to bear in mind. Now, I did just mention them, but let me reiterate. Pages with zero traffic, zero links, zero conversions. Check the impressions of those pages. With our overviews, the impressions are going to be skewed, and I'll come on to that in a little bit. But essentially, you just want pages that are so far detached from the core theme of your business and the category of your business that by removing them, no one in the business is going to notice, but actually your rankings could benefit. And when you do this at scale, when you have a proper content detox strategy, the impact can be immediate. We no indexed 30-40% of those pages. By the following week, we'd had a nice uptick in the traffic coming to the site. So if you want a hand with content detoxing, because you really do need experience with doing this, because obviously if you do it wrong, then your rankings could plummet, right? Then do reach out to me on LinkedIn and I can take a look at your site. But content pruning, a really effective way to have an immediate boost in your rankings. Number 7 is the authority flow framework. And I've mentioned this a little bit with the headers, but the idea of this is that we link pages between one another that are closely relevant. So for example, if I'm a lawyer and I offer corporate law services and I create blogs related to corporate law, I want to make sure that those blogs are linking to one another, but I also want to make sure that those blogs are fundamentally linking to my corporate law solution page, because this means that every time I link to my corporate law solution page, I am in turn passing authority from those blogs to that corporate law solution page, and that corporate law solution page can increase in rankings. Let me show you a real example of how this works across an actual corporate law website in the UK. So EM Law, they've written a blog. What is a subsidiary? Now, of course, we've just been through the trust header framework. There's definitely work that can be done on the header of this, but this is related to corporate law. Now, as I scroll down this page, albeit the internal links could be optimized a little bit more, there's definitely more that we could do with this page, but you'll notice that we have a link to our corporate law firm landing page. And this is the page that fundamentally we want to rank, because this is the page that when someone Googles corporate law firm, we want them to land on this page and subsequently either reach out to one of the lawyers or get in touch via the phone or the form below. If I come into Ahrefs and I have a look at EM Law, what I'm going to do is just show the keyword rankings of this domain. So UK, phrase contains corporate law. You can actually see at the top here, we've gained 3 positions for corporate law, corporate law firms London, corporate law solicitors, a new entrant. And obviously there's other activities that are going on, such as on-page optimizations, link building, all the good sound SEO practices that enable a site to rank. But really internal links are the absolute lifeblood of rankings. And if you've got hundreds of pages on your site already and you haven't thought about an internal link strategy or built an internal link map, then get in touch with me, because again, this is one of the highest value activities you can do for your SEO. By spending a day just rolling out internal links between related blogs and pointing to the relevant service category, you can see an incredibly quick increase in your ranking. So you could potentially be ranking before the new year even turns in. I'm going to show you another example of where we do this. I'm going to show you another example of a site that's also done this very well, a site that we've worked with. So if I come into Cezanne HR and I go into their blog, they've recently acquired a business in the recruitment space. So this is a brand new category for them, right? They're very much focused on the HR software, HR system, HRIS side of the business. But now this is a new category, new keywords, new opportunities for us to crack. So I've clicked on the recruitment landing page. If I open up the recruitment blog and then I scroll down to the bottom here, we've got a nice early internal link that's relatively keyword rich to our recruitment landing page. And again, this is the target page that we want Google to rank for HR software recruitment, those sort of relevant terms. Now, what I'm going to do is actually jump into Ahrefs and show you the immediate gain that by doing this activity can have on your site. And there we go. So we've got HR recruitment software, page 1, online recruitment software, new entrant, unconscious bias in recruitment. Okay, that's pointing to a blog. UK recruitment software, we've entered at 11. So just by rolling out these internal links, it's a category that's obviously related to our seed category of HR software. But by rolling out all this content, the acquisition of the new business, we're confirming to Google that we are an authority in this space. We're creating as much content as we can within this category and covering as much surface area as we physically can as well. But the critical thing is just making sure that we internally link, and if we can, use keyword-rich anchors to our key solution pages. Otherwise, we are not maximizing the output that we can get from the blogs that we're creating. Number 8, the proximity link model. Now, link building remains the most important thing that you can do today to increase your rankings. And it's still something that is not given the limelight that it should. With every single client that we work with on an SEO perspective, we will always do link building in some form. And I'll do other videos around link building. I have done other videos around link building because they deserve their own platform. But what do I mean by proximity link? What do I mean by the proximity link model? So we're not just building links based on DR, or DA, so domain rating or domain authority based on Ahrefs or SEMrush. What we're looking to do is build links from highly related sites to our category. So let me show you an example of what we've done for Cezanne over the years. If you come onto Cezanne HR, go onto backlinks, and I haven't sorted this, just taking a look at these, the new links that have come in. We've got links from People Managing People, an HR software site, Case IQ, greenhouse.com, that's a partner. Let's have a look at some of these other ones. We've got links from Agency Analytics, standoutcv.com, workable.com, talentmash.com. You'll notice all of these domains are highly, highly relevant to Cezanne HR. They are either in the HR space, the recruitment space, the people, the broad sort of people space. And really what we're seeing move the needle more than ever isn't just authority. Really, it comes down to relevancy. The only time you're going to have authority move the needle is if you're consistently getting links from the likes of BBC, because Google essentially does have a sort of A-star set of domains that it doesn't matter what content they write, it will always rank more or less, and those links are invaluable. So yeah, the likes of like a BBC, for example, government publications are always going to be an exception to the rule. Now, most of us can't consistently build those links, so we need to go for relevancy, and relevancy definitely has the highest impact versus the time input that we have to create said link. If you need a hand with link building, and I've said this with quite a few of them, do reach out. We have a specialist department focused exclusively on link building. It's very difficult. It's very hard to get right, but when you get it right, this will have the biggest impact on your rankings. And strategy 9, last but very much not least, is the query expansion engine. So a real brief sort of walkthrough about how ChatGPT and AI overviews, so Gemini, Google's Gemini, find sites such as yours. So when you put a prompt into the models execute something called query fan out. So this means that in the example of an AI overview, when you put a keyword into Google will actually search 7, 8, 9 additional keywords that are related to your keyword and then aggregate the results and serve you the results in their output box. So this means that our pages, a lot of the time, our site will trigger for these query fan out queries, but we may not know that that's been the case. And we certainly won't be getting the click either, because we know that AI overviews is where clicks go to die, right? Let me show you an example of how you can find this. So if you go into your Google Search Console and you go to Add Filter, you go to Query, go to Custom Regex, dots, swirly bracket, 75, close swirly bracket, and press Apply. you'll notice that the queries that come up will have a significantly higher number of impressions, but will be very much long tail, so to speak. So obviously we haven't had 283 searches of this specific keyword. It's far too long tail. These are usually examples of Google's query fan out engine in motion. So we've triggered on 283 instances what SaaS spend management tools offer compliance and access control features. And why this is so powerful is that these are the types of things that Google is searching our site for, and we need to make sure that we can provide content to support it. So all of these queries are fantastic opportunities for us to create content for. So this is like a whole new content strategy. And if some of them are a little bit further down the funnel, so best SaaS management systems with integrated savings, identification, and tracking features. This is absolute gold for solution pages or listicle pages. We can answer that query specifically. We can say the best SaaS management systems with integrated savings, identification, and tracking features is, and then as the models will look for efficient information retrieval, they will see that we've addressed that specific query directly upfront and be far more likely to cite us in the AI overview. And Chat GPT is the exact same. So do not sleep on query fan out. I've attached a link to a Chrome extension that if you don't like using regex and things like that, we built a Chrome extension that essentially gives you the data on all your query fan out, your AI sort of queries, so to speak. So the growth in impressions, the category of those different queries, you can export it and everything like that. It's an awesome tool, but just promise me you will periodically check your Search Console for these types of queries and address them live on your site. And that pretty much wraps up the 9 best B2B SEO strategies. If you've got to this point, I'm super appreciative of that. Thank you so much. If you've liked the video, please hit subscribe, drop me a comment. What are some of the strategies you're looking at going into next year? Now, I've also given you a 30-day implementation checklist. So in the next 30 days, go through each of these, tick them off, and you will give yourself a much better chance of ranking for those keywords that drive actual pipeline for your business. And if SEO, AI SEO is something you're considering for your B2B business going into next year, then quite simply hit the proposal URL at the bottom of the microsite, reach out, and I'll be in touch. Otherwise, I will see you on the next video. Thank you.